Hello and welcome to the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. I'm your host, David Wren, and don't forget the podcast is available to download on a host of platforms, including Acast, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, and Stitcher after the live broadcast. Joining me tonight are the second and third best hosts on Gersnet. It is Colin and Ross. Good evening, gents.
Oh, I got second, Ross. I got second.
Right, hold on. You say Colin and Ross because that's alphabetical, aye?
Yeah, I mean, you're both just as bad as each other, so it's really not a competition. But it's good to have you both on. It's good to have all the hosts on at once as well. How's your weekend been, Ross?
Weekend's been good. Aye, obviously set up very, very nicely. Friday night, went and watched some, as we call it down in England, non-league football yesterday. Today, getting all the presents wrapped, getting ready for Christmas. So no, it's been good. I can't complain.
What were you calling? You have kids. Is this an exciting time of year in your household?
It used to be, but they're kind of getting a wee bit older now. My boy's 14, and so it's just all about trainers and hair gel and all that kind of stuff. And my daughter's 12, so she's the same. It's no Santa anymore. It's Xboxes and expensive pairs of trainers. But I've had a decent weekend though. Obviously Friday night was superb, as we'll go on to discuss. Kind of relaxing day yesterday. Just popping about, and today I went to see the new Star Wars movie, which some of us here were old enough when it first arrived in 1977. I went to see the original when it first arrived, so it was good to be there to see it finishing today, because you get the impression that's it, it's done. When it comes to the Luke Skywalker stuff, that's it, done. So yeah, it was good to see that again. A couple of there's something in my eye moments during the film, so yeah, I enjoyed it.
Probably in the minority, but I can't think anyone worse than going to see the new Star Wars film. So we'll probably go into the football now. Just to avoid any more conversation like that.
You could talk about the fact that you're joining the vinyl revolution as well, but no, let's talk about the football. See? Well, you'll get into the Star Wars thing as well. Don't worry, David.
Yeah. So anyway, speaking of Christmas presents, I think Rangers delivered the perfect one for the fans on Friday night. It was a dominant performance. Ryan Kent, Joe Aribo, and Jermain Defoe all scoring in a pretty convincing 3-0 victory at Easter Road against Hibs. How satisfying was it to see such a dominant performance against a team who have caused us serious issues, especially Easter Road in the past?
Any victory against that lot is satisfying. I'd be satisfied with a gritty 1-0 against them, particularly at Easter Road. And some of my most satisfying moments as a Rangers fan has been watching us turn over Hibs. And actually, unfortunately, over the last 18 months, that's not happened enough for my liking. But you're right, it was dominant. It was dominant up to a point. And I think the red card slightly changed the game. And maybe we've been guilty a few times over the season so far of taking our foot off the gas when the game's dead. And that can be slightly frustrating. But we were a cut above. We really were a cut above on Friday night. And obviously with Hibs picking up a new manager in Jack Ross, you expect a new manager bounce a wee bit. They always want to up their game against us and come out and hurt Rangers. We know that. They see us as some kind of rival, which is laughable. So there were kind of all these warning signs or indicators that this could be a tricky game. So, I mean, what a way to steady the nerves, obviously, to capitalise on that mistake early doors, settle the nerves, get Joe Aribo to put the second away quite early as well. And all in all, it was a really, really enjoyable evening.
Colin, obviously, I think Brian Rice, the Hamilton manager, had said that the gulf's never been bigger between the other teams in the Old Firm. I think we've seen this season, other than the Aberdeen game at Pittodrie the other week, which we should have won, but certainly the difference in quality against these teams that we may have struggled against in the past has been quite noticeable this season. Is it a case of us being so much better from last season? Is it also the case that these teams have got worse?
I would think Rangers have improved, David. I mean, the Aberdeen game, we should have won that convincingly. I think we discussed last week in the pod that there's still wee signs with Rangers that when they start feeling a wee bit of pressure, they're still quite a nervous side. But in terms of the quality, it's definitely there. I had the fear for Friday, I must admit. It just felt like one of those games, especially after Celtic got a decent result on Wednesday. It just felt like one of those games where, as you said there, in previous years, we'd have probably dropped points. We've went there over the last couple of seasons and played really well and not done anything. In fact, I think the last time we won there, it was a couple of years ago. It was a game I was at. I think Windass scored and Morelos scored, and Hibs should have won that night. They battered us. I think Neil Lennon was in charge at that point, and they absolutely, they gave us a going over. And I don't know how we came away with the points that night, but it's been the opposite since then. We've been going there and playing very, very well, but not able to get the victory. So because of that, I genuinely feared that we were going to slip up on Friday. And to come away with such a convincing performance was brilliant. It was outstanding. Get the job done nice and early, go into your weekend nice and relaxed. I don't think the rest of Scottish football has got any worse. I think Rangers have improved because Celtic were so far ahead anyway. We are now showing that we're not that far behind them, if indeed we are behind them.
Yeah, no, it's obviously good to see such to go ahead so quickly, I suppose, and get the 2 goals as early as we did. It settles the nerves in games like that, and it's good also, I suppose, to see us capitalising on mistakes from the other team, because perhaps in other games, even when you look at the Celtic Cup final, we sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot with that. So it's good to see us make the most of that early error and get ahead.
Very much so, David. And everyone is kind of saying it as well. Let's not underestimate the difficulty in that finish from Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent has come into not criticism, but kind of questions from the fan base since he's returned, and really asking him to prove and to earn that transfer fee. And he's not done that with this one finish. But considering the Easter Road can be quite a hostile atmosphere, we're under the lights on a Friday night, under the BT Sport cameras. That was a high pressure finish. It's come to him. He takes it first time and he controls it and he keeps the ball down, and he shows a class and a composure that is often found wanting in Scottish football. So it was a huge moment, and you're right, David. It was very, very important to capitalise on these mistakes, because these mistakes are rife in Scottish football, and to be the best side in the league, you have to punish them. And I genuinely believe it's not something we do often enough. I was fortunate/unfortunate enough to be at Hampden a couple of weekends ago to watch the League Cup final, and you're absolutely right. Celtic were there for the taking, and in many aspects were the architects of what could have been their own downfall, and we didn't punish them. We weren't clinical enough, and we could talk about a psychological block for Morelos, and we have discussed that on the podcast since that match. But the whole side has to be clinical. The whole side has to take advantage, to be ruthless and really punish teams. And thankfully, we did that on Friday night. Like I say, Ryan Kent set us up perfectly. Let's not underestimate the significance of Joe Aribo really, really chasing down that ball, showing desire and showing hunger to close down Marciano, because Marciano as a keeper can be a decent shot stopper, but also can have nerves and can be a wee bit of a bomb scare. So he's been smart, he's been brave, and he's closed down the goalkeeper. He's forced the error, and thankfully we've capitalised. And 5 minutes later, obviously, we go on and get the second goal, which is real class. And I'm sure we'll mention it at some point in a few minutes' time. If that hadn't been a goal, it surely would have been a penalty. And thankfully, Ryan Porteous, who flattened Jermain Defoe in the box just in the lead up to the second goal, got his marching orders later on.
Yeah, Colin, it was a good finish from Aribo, and it's good to see him now coming into his own a wee bit, especially in that position. I think certainly it looked like, in the first half he was key to everything we did well down the right hand side, and he seems to started working better with Tavernier, which is also good to see. Perhaps he's now found where he needs to be on the pitch for us.
Yeah, it was a great finish. It was reminiscent of MSL actually, back in my glory days in the fives, David, if I'm being honest. But in terms of Aribo, I think he started the season well. And I think again we've discussed this a few times on the pod. The first Old Firm game of the season in September, didn't perform so well. I think Gerrard got the tactics wrong that day. He had a sort of an off day, and I don't know if that had an impact on him. He seemed to start playing within himself a wee bit after that, and it's taken him a wee while. But this position that Gerrard's got him in now seems to suit him. You know, he's on the right hand side, as you say. He's linking up well with Tav, but also gives him the option to cut inside onto his left foot. As Ross has just alluded to, he's instrumental in the first goal because he doesn't give that ball up. It's a slight touch, but it's enough to block the clearance and set it up for Ken. And Ken done well. It's still quite a tricky finish, but Aribo's got to get a lot of the credit for that. The second goal is just a wee bit sort of. I know I was trying to be a bit funny earlier on. A wee bit like who was the one-touch striker that we used to have that went to Everton? Oh, I'm having a brain freeze here.
You're starting to sound like Pete there, Colin.
I know. It's because I'm two buds in, two canned in.
Yelovich.
It was a wee bit. I mean, Yelovich was a master at the one-touch finish. You know what I mean? And it was a wee bit like that. A good cutback, as Ross says, a stonewall penalty. And I'm slightly disturbed that no one mentioned that during the commentary until it came to McCoy. McCoy said at half-time, "Oh, by the way," but no one said it at the time. Your usual suspects sort of remain quiet. But I mean, a brilliant finish, an absolutely outstanding finish, and he's becoming very instrumental in all that's good about Rangers at the moment, Aribo, and I'm chuffed for him because for a wee while there, I was starting to fear. It looked to me like he was starting to sink under the pressure of being a Rangers player, but no, he's coming to the fore now.
Yeah, it was also, Ross, good to see Jermain Defoe get back in the score sheet and lead the line. In the absence of Morelos. He has been quite vocal about the fact he wants to stay at the club. Would you be inclined to give him a new deal and extend his stay beyond the end of the season?
Undoubtedly, David, I would. With all the sports science and the kind of the technology surrounding the game these days, the traditional ages at which players would retire don't tend to mean so much anymore. It's well documented that Jermain Defoe looks after himself well, that he's a first-class trainer, that he puts in the time and the energy away from Auchenhowie to keep himself sharp and in shape. The line that's trotted around a lot of the time is that he's never touched a drop of alcohol. It's clear that this boy is still one of the most capable finishers in the Scottish game. And I texted a pal of mine when he finished when I finished the game off on Friday, texted him to say that Jermain Defoe could still do a job for most English Premier League sides, and I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that if he was given more of a chance today at Bournemouth, he could still be there and he could still be an integral part of their squad. So I'm not too concerned about his age, and obviously we know that the older and the wiser players tend to have quite a significant influence around the training pitch anyway. With all of the experience of Defoe representing top-class sides in England, representing his national team and going to international tournaments with the England squad, he's got so much experience and so much value that he can pass on to the younger lads that he must be an incredible influence to have around the training ground. So I would keep him on both those fronts. He's still his ratio of goals to minutes played is simply staggering. For any player in this league, it's remarkable. You see with the goal that he scored on Friday, it was a clever header in from Arfield, and I don't deny that at all. Actually, I think that was the best thing that Scott Arfield's done possibly this season is that assist. The way that he takes the ball down, but his second touch to knock the ball away from the defender, but also kind of kill it dead at the same time as he shifts his weight. It was remarkable. It was mesmerising. And you can see in that one finish the value that he still brings to the squad. So in terms of value on the pitch and off the park, I think he's crucial to have around. He's spoken. I've noticed actually over the last couple of weeks there's been a real increase in the number of times that Defoe's quoted in the media. So he's clearly putting the idea out there. Like you say, he wants to be dealt in. He wants to be kept on at the club. He really seems to buy into the club. Loves working with Gerrard. To me, it's a no-brainer. I can't see any downside to having him at the club.
Colin, do you think his time at Rangers has been more successful than most people would have imagined when he joined?
Well, I mean, I slightly disagree with Ross in that I felt the last few games that Defoe's came on, he's been fairly anonymous, and I think if something was to happen to Morelos, then I think we would need more firepower. I know he's still fit and all the rest of it, but I think it would be a big ask of him. to fill in for Morelos for a prolonged period. I think he gives us more off the park, if I'm being honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's doing a great job on it. I think behind the scenes at training, I think particularly with Morelos, I think a lot of the positive stuff with Morelos this season, the way he's sort of avoiding, the controversy up until last week, obviously. I think a lot of that is down to Jermain Defoe. I think he adds a lot in the dressing room, which, it does. To me, a lot of people look at what players do in the park. It's not just about that. It's about their presence. It's about what they offer, to the group, to the squad, and all that kind of a thing. And I think he offers a lot. I think he's been an integral signing, even although he's not had a huge amount of game time. Would I extend his contract? I would probably give him another year. Would I expect him to play a lot of game time? I'm not so sure. I still think it's an area that we maybe need to strengthen, because, as I said, if something did happen to Morelos, I'm not sure Defoe would provide the same amount of firepower. But that doesn't mean to say that he's not contributing in any way. He's contributing a lot to the cause. I think he's a vital member of that group, I think. And I think that he's worthy of his extension.
Yeah, so I mean it's all positive stuff generally from a Rangers point of view from Friday night, but obviously there was ugly scenes both on the pitch and off it, in more or less the same instant when Porteous went in and Barisic was an appalling tackle. He was given a red card, and while Barisic was down, he had what appeared to be a bottle of vodka thrown at him from the stands. Ross, it's worrying to see such a bad tackle that was a really dangerous tackle and didn't look like any sort of attempt not to hurt a fellow professional from what we saw, and that's why Porteous saw red. But then to see what came from the stands as well, it's worrying to see that still in the game.
It was a really ugly couple of minutes there, but sadly nothing less than we expect from that mob, who time and time again lower the standard of Scottish football. We've seen, if we cast our minds back over the last couple of seasons, speaking purely from the supporters' perspective of that football club, we've seen the Scottish Cup final 2016. Again, I was there and I've seen it firsthand, and it was nothing short of disgusting what happened. And then the subsequent way that it was attempted to be covered up by their chairman, Rod Petrie, was disgraceful. Then we think back to last season and that one same section of Easter Road, whereby an individual from the stand comes on and attacks our captain purely for the fact that he's a Rangers player. And the media word that they like to use at the time was confront. It wasn't confront, it was attack. Let's not make any mistake there. It was really, really disheartening to see that. The tackle itself was a disgrace. It was nothing short of a disgrace. And actually, I'll hold my hands up and say the first time I saw it, when I saw that in real time, I thought that's a heavy tackle, but he's won the ball, and it's a full-blooded challenge. And then I've seen a couple of angles and I saw it in slow motion, and it's nasty. It's vile. And he's gone out deliberately to injure a fellow professional. And the way that you can see that is when you see Porteous running towards the tackle, he slows down by half a step. He deliberately slows down because he wants to take the man. He knows he'll get the ball because Barris, the ball is kind of presenting itself, so he knows he'll get the ball. But the way that he slows down and lifts the leg deliberately to target the player is barbaric. And unfortunately, it's not the first time with that player, who actually is, he's a young centre half. He's a young Scottish centre half, and unlike a lot of our fan base, I want to see the national team do well. He's not a dreadful defender. He's not a good defender. He's certainly not a cultured centre half, but he's not dreadful. So to see him go out and deliberately seek to hurt one of our players, the fact that it's not even the first time really, really, really hurts. Cast your minds back to last season, and he deliberately went out to hurt Koulibaly in the same way and got away with it. So I'll let Colin elaborate on his thoughts on what we've seen from the stands there. And it's not just the vodka bottle. There were plenty of missiles being thrown, but we'll all focus on the vodka bottle because it was glass and it could have hurt him a bit more. The challenge itself was a disgrace. The scenes from the fans were a disgrace. What I saw from their coaching staff who left the technical area to confront our coaching staff was a disgrace. The way that their fan base on social media and online after the event has tried to play this down and say that he got the ball and our players were riling them up anyway, so that's why we threw stuff. That's a disgrace. The whole thing is sickening, and yet none of us are surprised because it's Hibernian Football Club.
Colin, your thoughts on the fiasco?
Okay, it's kind of similar to what Ross is just saying there. I mean, the actual tackle itself is disgusting. Now, I got into a bit of a text exchange with my mate, and he's a bit old school, and he's like, he won the ball. And I was like, well, winning the ball's not enough. He could have won the ball sooner. He could have won that ball 2 or 3 steps sooner. As Ross said, he delayed his run to make sure he could connect with the man, and he's caught him fairly high. And I think Borna's seen it coming and managed to ride it. As for that, that mob in the corner, we've seen it before. We've seen it in the cup final. Now, the minute I was like Ross, I was at the cup final. I was behind the goal on the Rangers end. The minute they came on the park, I knew it was coming. I mean, there was no way they were going to stop at the halfway line. It wasn't just celebration. It wasn't just over exuberance. They were coming on to goad and look for trouble, and that's what they got. And then when they got it, and Rangers complain about it, it's all sour grapes and all the rest of it. But let's not kid ourselves on here. It's not just Hibs. This is an ongoing issue. This country's attitude towards Rangers Football Club is becoming quite dangerous. I think it's almost like obsessive. I mean, I understand why people don't like Rangers. There's a lot of things about us. I'm a warts and all kind of supporter. I know there's elements to certainly the fan base that's unlikable. And I can understand, historical elements about the club that people wouldn't like. But, when you look at the political background at the moment, there's a whole constitutional debate. And it seems to me that Rangers are viewed as being on one side of that, and just the absolute, they emphasise everything that's wrong with that side of the debate, and it's unhealthy now. When any songs come from the stands at Ibrox that shouldn't be getting sung, which again, as a Rangers supporter, I hold my hands up and say, it's time for that stuff to stop. We need to move on for that. But there's certain commentators, your Graham Spears and your Tom English, they're all over it. You know what I mean? The minute something like that happens, they are all over it. Graham Spears has said nothing about Friday night's incident. Nothing. His Twitter account is virtually silent on the issue. Tom English, apparently a missile was thrown. Apparently. The whole narrative around this, no one has made the connection. No one in the mainstream media is prepared to say, you know what, whenever Rangers go to certain away grounds, or most away grounds in this country, there's inappropriate behaviour. We've seen players attacked. We've seen graffiti about the Ibrox disaster popping up. We've seen the bus getting attacked. We've seen Friday night there, more missiles coming on. There was a pie aimed at Tavernier at Pataudry. There was obviously the stuff on Friday night. And there was the incident last week at Motherwell with Morelos when he was getting hot cups of Bovril and all that lobbed over him. There's one common denominator here, and that's us. It's whenever we turn up, this stuff happens, and it's not coming from us. So people need to start calling it out. And you've got, as I said, you've got people in the mainstream media like your Haggertys and all them just stirring it up, and no one, not one person in the mainstream media is prepared to stand up and say, you want to know something? There's actually an issue when it comes to people's attitudes and what they find acceptable when it comes to attending Rangers games and what they're prepared to do. Lobbing, I mean, we've already had the issue with Tavernier at Hibernian. And the guy, fair enough, the boy got to jail, which I thought was a bit harsh. I actually think what happened on Friday was worse. If that bottle connects with anyone, it could do some real damage. And it needs called out. It absolutely needs called out.
Does it need to be called out by Rangers as a club? Or?
I think we're getting to that point. I really do. I mean, I know Rangers are trying to be, sensitive around the issue, but to me, the club should come out now and say, well, look, let's look at the incidents here and reel them off. You know what I mean? Because there's plenty. there are a lot of incidents out there in the last 3 or 4 years that are not healthy at all, and it needs to be addressed and it needs to be called out. But I don't think it will be. I think for far too many people in this country, Rangers represent a sort of pantomime villain, and they need to have a look at their lives. You know what I mean? Rangers are a football club, and they're a football club that's not without its ills, but they're not responsible for all the ills in society. So I think there needs to be a serious debate in this issue, because someone, in my opinion, it could have happened on Friday there, someone is going to get seriously hurt.
Yeah, so I think moving on from that, looking ahead, next game's obviously Kilmarnock on Boxing Day. Ross, what are your thoughts going into that? They've obviously not got a permanent manager at the moment. Alex Dyer's taking charge, not been on a great run, lost on Saturday. Another team that we've struggled to beat over the past couple of years, and just got past on the first day of the season. So what are you expecting from them?
Well, honestly, I'm expecting 3 points and another dominant performance. It's a fair point. We've struggled against them over the past 18 months or so. I think last season Kilmarnock were stronger than they will. Certainly stronger than they've been for the past decade, and probably stronger than they will be for the next 10 years. I think they peaked last season under Steve Clarke. We've struggled against them predominantly at their place on that abomination of a pitch. So obviously they come to us on Thursday. We will hopefully I think I'm right in saying that since Morelos' red card was a second yellow, I think Morelos is back, but even if he wasn't, I have no doubt Defoe can lead the line professionally. So I'm expecting nothing less than a dominant performance and 3 points. I think you would struggle to find any area on the pitch where you would say that a Kilmarnock player is better than the corresponding Rangers player. We have better players than them. We have better management and coaching than them. We have the advantage of the home crowd. And I'm struggling to see, obviously, Kilmarnock at the moment are leaderless and rudderless. The dressing room, according to reports that came out in the week there, the dressing room kind of revolted against Angelo Alessio, their former manager. So they're kind of a team in a bit of a wee bit of a crisis. And I think knowing the importance of every game now, obviously we go into the winter break. We've got 2 games left till the winter break, Kilmarnock and Celtic away. So the importance of these 2 games cannot be understated. And obviously the game on the 29th next weekend against Celtic is the harder game on paper. So I think that has to be drilled into the team that there's no excuse for not capitalising on this. There's no excuse for not putting Kilmarnock to bed early, convincingly, make a statement, move on to next weekend. And honestly, considering the psychological improvements we've seen in the side over the past 6 to 12 months, I have absolutely no doubt that we'll do that.
Colin, how important is it to keep this momentum going, especially going into the winter break and the Celtic game that's coming up?
Well, I think it's vital, David. Absolutely vital. I mean, Killie have proved, as you've alluded to there, that especially under Steve Clarke, we had problems with him, but no manager at the moment. I still think it could be a tricky game. These teams tend to sit in and make it hard for us, but just need to keep winning. I think a lot of the time, when you're going through the campaign, I certainly felt like this last season. When you get a good result, you think, oh, we're in with a chance, but deep down you don't really believe it. See, this season we are a good side. You know what I mean? And if we keep on winning games and keep putting the pressure on them, we are in with a right chance. So, yeah, get the 3 points against Killie on the Thursday, and then on to the Celtic game next week and see what it takes us. I mean, even if we come away with nothing next week against Celtic, we're still in there a real good shout. But I think we're in a good place at the moment. I know the cup final defeat was a sore one to take. It was a hard one on the chin, but overall, I think Gerard's got that group in a good place, and I'm quite confident going into the next week, and I think we'll be in a good place come the winter break.
Ross Collins mentioned that, even if we don't take something next week, we'll be in with a shout. But personally, I think we really need to at least take a draw at Parkhead next week, just if not for psychological reasons rather than the actual numerical advantage. But I think it's really important that we take something. Do you agree, or do you think that it's not going to be a massive factor in the season?
No, to be quite frank, I do agree, David. I think you'd always rather have points on the board than have the game in hand, psychologically speaking. So obviously that's not quite working out in our favour this year. The fact that it's 5 points from first to second as opposed to 2 points, it's 5 points in the game in hand. So you're kind of assuming that Rangers would win that game in hand and close the gap to 2 points. But let's say then that we lose the game on the 29th and that 5 points becomes 8 points. Even with the game in hand, I think there's a significant change between 2 and 5. So I'm slightly more pessimistic than Colin. I think we've probably worked that out over the past 2 or 3 years of doing this show, that I'm not always the most optimistic of fans. I'm not always the most positive of fans, and sometimes I take things a wee bit harder. So I think the game on the 29th, it's not make or break. It's not do or die. It's not the end of the season. But we did not help ourselves with the Old Firm game at home earlier on in the season. We really didn't. Gerrard admits that he got it wrong. Every single contributor we've had on this show who's spoken about that game has admitted that we got the tactics wrong that day. 1 or 2 players had an off day and we just didn't do enough. And it was really, really tough to watch a group of capable and able players just not get it right on the day and maybe slightly wilt under the pressure. I think we've progressed since then. I think we've grown since then. I think a lot of the newer players have started to realise what it means to play for Rangers. Look at your Borna Barisic, look at your Joe Aribo. Guys like that understand the weight of the jersey now. I truly believe that. So it's not do or die and it's not the be all and end all. But if that number grows to 8 points gap, even with the game in hand, I think going into the second half of the season, that's considering I hate saying it, considering the relentless form of Celtic. Look at their game yesterday. That even when they get pegged back to 1 each, they get some very, very favourable refereeing decisions. They get things breaking in their favour, but their results have been strong. They have been excellent, and they don't look like dropping as many points as a lot of us predicted on the show. So considering that form that they're showing, I think if we were to get a less favourable result on the 29th, this campaign becomes a lot tougher.
It was another narrow victory for Celtic on Saturday, Colin. 2-1 over Aberdeen. Sort of struggled to the 3 points. It would seem, I didn't see the game, but certainly wasn't the clearest of margins. Do you think they are maybe running out of steam, or do you think, because even going on the game the other week, we looked at the fitter side throughout that. Do you think we're showing signs that we could, we could win next Sunday, and certainly if we take the chances, we'd be in a better position?
I think we can win next Saturday, no problem. I think we're good enough to beat Celtic. Excuse me. I think it comes down to that belief and that momentum. We should have beaten them at Celtic Park with 10 men in March there. We were the far better side. As Ross has said there, the game at Ibrox in September was a bit of a write-off. But Gerrard has a decent record against Celtic, and in a couple of games when he has suffered defeats, he's been really unlucky. Like say the game at Celtic Park, the cup final was a farce. You know what I mean? That game should have been done and dusted. As for Celtic running out of steam, I don't know about that. I just think Celtic have the look of a side that know the course and know how to get through games, and and they carry a bit of luck at times as well. But that comes from experience and knowing what to do, when to do it. That said, we can beat them. Absolutely, 100%. We can beat them, and the players, the manager, the whole group need to believe that they can beat them, and we can. Absolutely, we can. We've shown that we can. We've beaten them at Ibrox. We've came very close to beating them at Celtic Park. Just to have a silly mistake sort of sold the pies that day. But every player plays to their their true capabilities, then we will give them a game next week. And even if we come away with a draw, we're still in it. And I don't think a defeat is the be all and end all. They've still got to come back to Ibrox. There's still a long way to go. I still think other teams will maybe take points off them. We just need to make sure we're as in as strong a place as possible if and when that happens. But next week we can 100% beat them. We've shown that. We showed that 2 weeks ago at Hampden. We're as good a side as them. We just need to believe it, and we just need to get over that mental hurdle, get the goal, and put them to the sword.
This is probably a question for both of you. I'll come to you first, Ross. How would you analyse the season so far with the year coming to a close and the winter break approaching?
I think the word is progress for me, and that doesn't just stand for 2019, but it kind of stretches back to the summer of 2018 onwards. I think physical progress on the park has been excellent. I think psychological progress, which is very, very evident, has been excellent. I think the club as a whole is progressing. I think even behind the scenes, I think some of the off the park stuff with the appointment of the new commercial director and the ties that he's striking up has been really good to see. 2019, there have been some real frustrations. Obviously, of course, there have been. Particularly, you think back to some of the cup performances, the Scottish Cup semi-final against Aberdeen. The tail end of last season was very hard to take. The cup final this season in the League Cup against Celtic was very, very, very difficult to swallow. So there's been some frustrating times, but the progression in terms of where we were when Gerrard came in and how he's carried that through. Obviously, he's learnt a huge amount from last season. So from this summer onwards, you can really see that being applied. The progression in terms of the squad, the calibre of players that we've brought in, the recruitment, I think, has been excellent. That's the one word that I would really use to sum up the year.
Colin, what are your thoughts?
I think we've come on leaps and bounds. I really do. I think Gerrard and his team and his staff can take a lot of credit. This time last season, we're getting into that game in the 29th against Celtic, and it pretty was much do or die. I know we won the game, and I think we pegged ourselves level or stuff like that. But we'd already dropped a significant amount of points. You know what I mean? We'd lost to Celtic. We'd dropped stupid points at Livy, and we dropped a lot of points by this stage last season. And even though we're still hanging on there, part of me didn't quite believe that we had enough. I don't feel like that this season at all. With the bad result against Celtic at Ibrox, I think that was just a bad day at the office. We've dropped 2 points to Hearts and 2 points to Aberdeen. We remain defeated away from home. We've took one step further in the European arena. We're into the knockout stages of the Europa League. I think this team is doing fantastically well. They really are, and they're probably not getting the credit they deserve because Celtic are the champions and they've won 10 trophies in a row and all that nonsense. This team deserves a lot of credit because that team that's won 10 trophies in a row, we're holding their feet to the fire, and we're doing it with a budget that's about half or a third of what they've got. So yeah, they deserve a lot of credit. We're in a title fight. We will take them to the wire. We've reached a cup final that we should have won. We're in the last 32 of the Europa League, and I've got no doubt we'll give the Scottish Cup a good crack as well. So it's not just progress, in my opinion, David. It's significant progress. We look at a very, very strong outfit, in my opinion, and Gerrard and his staff deserve a lot of credit. We're in a good place at the moment.
I'll come to you both for score predictions for both games, Killie and Celtic. Ross, what do you think? Killie first.
Killie first. I don't see them posing us too many problems. I think many of the dangerous players that they had last season aren't firing in the same way that they are this time around. I never watched their game this weekend, but from the reports that I've read, it's not as if Alex Dyer has kind of provided any new manager bounce. It doesn't sound like their squad's any more together than they were under Alessio. So I think that the Killie game, it has to be 3-0.
And Celtic?
Celtic's a bit tougher. As Celtic, I see us scoring. Unfortunately, I also see them scoring. I think this will be the game that Morelos breaks this kind of barren streak against Celtic. I think it'll be 2-2.
Colin, your thoughts? What score predictions are you giving me for Killie and Celtic?
I think Killie, although they're not in a great place at the moment, I think they over the last few years they know how to play against Rangers and they cause us problems. So I'm going to go for 2-0 there. I'm going to go 1-0 Rangers next week. I think we're due something against them. It feels to me like it's been in the post for a while, and I think it's coming next week.
Okay, doke. That brings us on nicely to our best of series for 2019. Obviously gave you a few questions earlier today, lads, which you've been thinking about all day, I'm sure. So I will start off and then I'll come to you both and we'll go through the list in that order. But the first question that I asked you was the best performance, Rangers performance of 2019. I have gone for the Old Firm game at Ibrox in May when Tavernier and Arfield scored. The reasons, there's a few reasons for that. It felt to me it was one of the weirdest Old Firm games I've ever been to, actually, because it was one of the most dominant displays I'd seen from a Rangers team, probably, in an Old Firm game, but also the most hollow I felt coming out of a victory, because it just felt like a sort of what could have been if we'd kept that sort of tempo all season, because we were absolutely excellent. Limited them to very, very few chances in the game. Scored early on and continued, and should really have scored more in the first half. And second half, we get the goal from Arfield, and the stadium was rocking that day. It was a lovely day as well. And I just felt like it was the first sign of what's come under Gerrard this season, that, you know, the game at Ibrox in the December was good, and it was a good performance. Good to finally break the duck and beat them since coming back up to the top flight. But that game just felt like a watershed moment for the team, I think, and added a bit of belief. And unfortunately, we didn't follow up earlier this season the way everyone thought we might. But I think certainly for me, it's a game that will live in my memory just for the absolute dominance. The performance. I don't know if you both have many memories of that day. Ross?
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree that it was a kind of watershed moment, and it showed the maturity of the side, and like I said earlier, the progress and the strides that we've made under Gerrard was summed up in that day. And it's an interesting point that you kind of felt hollow coming out of that game, because I suppose there was a sort of bittersweetness about it. For me, though, if we're talking about the best team performance of 2019, I'm going to go slightly more recent, actually. And whilst I thought we were excellent on Friday night, and I thought we were excellent against Aberdeen earlier on in the season, for me, the best team performance of 2019 would be only recently at Hampden against Hearts in the semi-final, when we dispatched them 3-0. Because obviously we've had our struggles at Hampden, and that can put a real psychological block on a team that we're a good side, because we keep getting to the semi-final stage but we can't really progress. That was obviously a hallmark of the 2018-19 season. We'd also very, very recently drawn and dropped points against Hearts. So again, they'd proved themselves as a side that could cause us issues. We went to Hampden that day and blew them away. And we were dominant and we were imperious, and it was an absolute joy to watch. So for me, that was the team performance of 2019.
Colin, what's your big entry?
Oh, hey, steady on. That's a bit rude, that. Well, I mean, my memories of that Old Firm game you were talking about is Ross's favourite player, Scott Arfield, having a great game and scoring the second goal. In terms of my own sort of entry to the category, I was actually going to go over the cup final. I kind of said that off air, but I'm going to change my mind. The cup final, I thought Rangers were superb up until the penalty. I thought we were absolutely superb, and I think if we'd got the goal, I think we could have went on and maybe actually given them a bit of a battering. Wasn't to be. So, as I said, I've slightly changed my mind. I'm going to go with Porto away. And the reason I'm going to go with Porto away is because Porto were in the quarterfinals of the Champions League last year. Still a very, very strong outfit. And for long periods in that game, it wasn't even a typical sort of, Walter Smith performance, when we were sitting in and, shot after shot and relying on McGregor to make save after save and then trying to hit them on the counter. We actually played some really, really good football that day and probably should have won the game. We were the better side for long, long periods. Don't get me wrong. There's maybe factors playing into that. As I've said before in the pod, wasn't a huge home support that night. It didn't feel like a big game to them. But you've still got to give the players credit. That's decent players and a high level of opposition. And we didn't just go out there and get a good result. The level of the performance was of such that after the game you felt disappointed that we hadn't won it. So yeah, I've changed my mind during the show. I was going to go for the cup final, but I'm going to go for Porto.
Okay. Well, the next category was goal of 2019, and I sort of had a wee watch on YouTube earlier of some of the goals just to remind myself, but I already had one in my head that to me it was important in so many ways for us in the context of that game and the whole Europa League campaign this season. But that was Morelos' strike against Porto at Ibrox, because it'd been such a sort of sticky game and hadn't managed to make the breakthrough. I think he'd sort of missed a couple of chances and just didn't seem to be going his way. But it just shows his quality as a striker that he could finish like that, and the way I think we spoke off air about it, Colin, and you'd said about the fact when you saw it live, you didn't quite realise how good a goal it was, but when you managed to see it back, to take a strike like that was really top class, and I think to get that first goal, and then we obviously went on and get another through Stephen Davis, which was great, and really in the context of the group stage. That was a massive game for us, both in belief and the actual getting through, to get the 3 points in such an important game. So yeah, for me that was the goal of 2019. Ross, what are your thoughts?
Well, for me, my goal of 2019, I'm actually going to hark back. Obviously, Colin's just spoken about Rangers away at Porto. And I'll kind of come to that in a moment. Before I get to that, the honourable mention for me is I'm actually now really trying to rack my brain as to whether this was early 2019 or late 2018. So I hope if I've got this one wrong, I think it might just be late 2018, but hopefully we'll sneak it in. Was Morelos last season away at Hearts at Tynecastle, where it was a free kick from Tav on the right-hand side. He whips the ball in and Morelos kind of flicks it into the far corner. For me, that's an honourable mention. What I'll say for my favourite goal of 2019, not just for the fact that I've managed to get all the way out there, but was Morelos away at Porto. Obviously, we'd gone 1-0 down and the team showed great character and great strength to come back into the game. But the passing and the movement and the one-touch play leading up to that goal, the way that the ball is kind of turned around the corner to Barisic, who then plays an absolutely inch-perfect ball just to take it out the reach of the centre half, falls phenomenally to Morelos, who has time, he has composure, he looks up and he rifles it into the top corner. To me, that's the goal that kind of kept our Europa League this season on track. It meant a huge amount to everyone that had travelled. To me, that's my favourite goal of 2019.
Colin, before I ask you your favourite goal of 2019, have you got any honourable mentions for goals from 2018?
I had to laugh at him saying that was late 2000. I think it was about September, October. But no honourable mentions for me. No, I mean my goal of 2019. Again, going back to the European campaign and Morelos, I thought his second header in Rotterdam was just top drawer. Now, I think I said this in the pod before, that although Feyenoord are probably, a weaker team than Porto, the trip there maybe represented a more difficult trip because of the atmosphere, because it was quite a hostile atmosphere, partisan crowd, and we've went one down again, and you think, oh, we're in trouble here. Morelos gets the first, which is also a very decent header, by the way. And you think, right, we're back in it, and then 5-10 minutes later, ball goes out to Barisic, who, by the way, deserves, should have mentioned this when we're talking about the Hibs game, he deserves a special mention for his 2019. He looked like he was out the door at one stage, and now he's standing there in the corner staring out the Hibs fans, you know what I mean? He's really grown into that jersey. So he deserves a special mention. But he gets the ball, great cross. And it was a cross with no power in it, and all the power came from Morelos. And all I can say is everyone within a sort of 50-yard radius of my house knew that the Rangers had scored that night, because me and the boy went mental when that one hit the net. It was an absolute peachy goal. So I'm going for Morelos, his second against Feyenoord.
Very good. You can probably just both confirm that we've all gone for the same player of 2019, and Alfredo Morelos.
Hold on, I think Colin was going to go for Shea Ojo.
No, but just to be, I like to be different.
Right, so Ross and I are in agreement. You're going to go for someone else. I'm going
to go for someone else. You're going to go with the crowd. I'm I don't follow trends. I set them. So I'm.
So Ross and I are going to go for the logical football. You can just do what you like.
Colin's being.
Well, I'm going to go for Ryan Jack. I'm going to give a special mention to Ryan Jack, because I think the player that was signed, it was Caixinha that signed Ryan Jack. That player that arrived at Ibrox in 2017 is, he's almost 2 times the player that he was then. He's another one that has grown into the jersey. I think the arrival of Stephen Davis and Kamara have upped him again, because that fight, for fighting for a place in the team. So he's, every time a threat comes to his jersey, he just seems to find another gear. And I just think he's so integral to what Rangers are about right now. I get Morelos, and he's probably right. I'm not, going to be too stubborn to admit that, but I do think Ryan Jack deserves a special mention. I think he's had an incredible year, maybe 18 months, and he's becoming the main man, in my opinion, especially in the middle of the park. He's just integral to what Rangers are about right now.
I think to me, Morelos certainly this season has been unbelievable, and I think it's easy to say what happened in the final against Celtic, but then for that to happen in the Sunday and then in the Thursday to go out and bag probably the biggest goal of the season so far in terms of the importance of it against young boys. I think he showed a bit of mettle there, but his whole game is just got so much better this season. I think his heading is considerably better. I think the way he holds the ball up, he adds a whole new dimension to the play. And I think he scored a lot of goals this season, but he scored a hell of a lot of goals. He scored a lot of goals last season. I think he's scored a hell of a lot of goals this season, and has become a proper striker. And you can't see when the time comes and he does leave for however much it is going to be, you can see him going down to England and having a real impact, especially for maybe a team that needs a striker that can hold the ball up and use their power up there. I think it's really hard. And I agree with Ryan Jack's been excellent. And I think there's other players there like Tav. I know Tav's had a tough time, but
it's worth giving a mention to Ryan Jack as well, because I think he's the front leader for the dawn of the decade. I think a lot of Rangers fans have hijacked that vote from Aberdeen, and if you haven't done so already, do it. Get on, and I voted for Ryan Jack and Gavin Ray. So get on there, Bears, and get Ryan Jack as the dawn of the decade, just to get it right up
them. Ross, do you have anything to add on Morelos before we move on to the final category?
No, just the fact that continually saddened by the treatment that Morelos gets. And actually, last week, Chris Boyd was surprising to every Rangers fan when he was a pundit, and he kind of mentioned that there are certain things that get highlighted because it's Morelos, and if it was anyone else, we wouldn't really be talking about it. I mentioned on the show last week, actually, that in my opinion, Morelos should not have received any reprimand for making an alleged gesture to Motherwell fans, because it's a celebration that he's done time and time again to whoever he's stood in front of. And whilst it might mean get it right up you in Scotland, it certainly doesn't mean that in either Colombia nor Finland. So I think Morelos, his goal scoring record is exceptional. Even his assists are wonderful. The attributes that he has in terms of, he's not just a finisher, he's not just a creator, but the way that he holds up the ball, the way that he uses his body, his physicality, he drags defenders away, he makes space for others to exploit. Some of the less appealing parts of his game, that he was a slightly selfish striker in the past, have certainly been weeded out of him, and he's a more rounded striker at the moment. All of that, to his credit, is compounded by the fact that he's continually put down by an incredibly hostile and negative media. And I honestly do not have enough kind words to say about him.
Okay. Final category is signing of 2019, and I'll quickly stake a claim for mine, which is Glenn Kamara, who I think has been an absolute steal for 50 grand. I know that obviously I live in Dundee, and I know when he signed for Rangers, there was a lot of Dundee fans sorry to see him go, and they assured me that he was going to be good, but I couldn't have imagined. Certainly in the early part of his career, and I think in Europe this season he's been absolutely outstanding. And I think it's easy to maybe miss and see the things he does wrong sometimes, but I think he certainly gives Ryan Jack and Stephen Davis or whoever else it might be, Scott Arfield in the midfield, license to go on and attack while he holds fort, and he breaks up the play and plays the easy passes, which is just so important, especially in the midfield three. And I think we will eventually sell him on for decent money as well, which is sort of our model, and that's what it has to be. And I think he's been a real find for us, and hopefully we'll have him for a wee bit longer more, because he's certainly settled into life at Rangers and has been a real asset to us. Ross, who are you going for?
For me, it's a chap that we mentioned earlier during the show, and I was saying his praises earlier on this evening, is Jermain Defoe. I think is our signing of 2019. If you look at his goal scoring record for Rangers this season, I think I'm right in saying in the Scottish Premiership he's appeared in 14 matches and scored 10 goals. A lot of those appearances, obviously, he's come on with limited time to go, and he's still found a way to get on the score sheet. Obviously, he's been brought on from the start on Friday, filling in for Morelos, and turns in the most professional performance, and shows that despite his age and despite his lack of game time, he still has a sharpness and a kind of clinical nature to his play. I think I'm right in saying that since he's been brought in, he's had 32 competitive appearances and he scored 19 goals, so he's well over the half a goal per game mark that you might typically use to judge a poaching striker. So his return, his output has been excellent. By all accounts, his demeanour around the training ground and the value that he brings off the park in his mentoring of the younger players has been first class. For me, it's got to be Jermain Defoe.
And finally, Colin, who are you going for?
Well, I'm going to go left field again. I'm going to go with Andy King. No, I'm only joking. I'm going to go with Stephen Davis.
That was a proper dad joke.
I know. Well, I'm a proper dad, so you know, if that's what it says on the tin, that's what you're going to get. No, I'm going to go with Stephen Davis. I think I said at the time, but again, I'm pretty sure I said on the show at the time that we would be signing the best midfielder in Scotland, be signing Davis. And I know Ryan Jack's probably pushing him for that. I think the impact he's made has been considerable. I know he struggled when he first came back. I just don't think he'd had a lot of game time. Excuse me. and he was, struggling to get back up to fitness. But from sort of the tail end of last season and from day one this season, he has just shown everything what he's about. He's sometimes I think he's actually improved from when he was with us the last time. He's just head and shoulders above so many people on the park that it's night and day. And again, it comes down to the group and all the rest of it. I don't think he just offers it on the park. I think in the dressing room, he's someone that's been over the course before. He's offering, that experience, and he'll be able to go around the dressing room and tell boys who haven't been there what they need to do. And I think that's vital as well. So I think he's been an outstanding signing for Rangers.
Well, that brings us to the end tonight, gents. Thank you for joining me. Hope you've picked up a tip or two on the best way to host this podcast, and you can take that on your list. The next hosting bout.
No, I'll tell you this much, David. I bet you're not going to wish Merry Christmas to the listeners.
By the way, at the very start, I've actually written in my sheet of paper in front of me, Merry Christmas to listeners. So you've ruined my big bit there.
The big bit. Can I,
Merry Christmas to us.
I was just about to, but I'm not going to bother.
I'm not going to bother now. Can also point out before you go, can also point out that you were giving me a row on Twitter for tweeting during the show by tweeting during the show. That
was part of the joke.
That's a dad joke, isn't it?
Yeah,
okay. I'll let you go on.
Anyway, but no, it's been good, and it's been good to go through a few memories of the year, and hopefully there'll be more exciting times to come. So thank you both for joining me, and thank you for listening. I think if you are enjoying what we're doing here, obviously subscribe, and you can listen to the show again if you so wish, or if you just caught the end, you can pick up on all the usual platforms. Have a nice Christmas, and thanks for joining us.